We're still in the year AD 28, and we're looking at event 30. Actually, we're going to be looking at event 30 and 31, but it's not titled that in my study Bible. So both of these events happened as event 30 as far as they're concerned out of 36. And the reason I say that is because we have the coming of the synagogue leader official to ask for the healing of his daughter. But on the way, he heals a woman with the issue of blood. So we're going to go ahead and take the woman with the issue of blood after the introduction of the request for him to come and heal a daughter. And we'll tie it all back up together tomorrow. So as we look at this is Jairus' daughter, and he is an official in the synagogue. He comes with humility. This is after Jesus has returned back over to the Capernaum side of the Sea of Galilee. And it says in the three accounts, Matthew chapter 9, and in Mark chapter 5, and in Luke chapter 8, that he fell at Jesus' feet. Now, Matthew says he bowed, but both Mark and Luke say he fell at Jesus' feet, and he entreated, he begged Jesus. It's really interesting because as he does so, he says, my little girl, my little daughter, as at the point of death. And in one account, he actually says that his daughter has died, which makes an even greater statement of faith that he believes that Jesus can raise her from the dead. Given that either one is possible, we find that he has the faith that if Jesus will just come and touch her, that she will be fine again, whether she was dying or whether she was actually dead. And we find out when we read the Gospel of Luke that this little girl, this daughter, was just 12 years old, and she was this official's only daughter. So that helps us to appreciate the desperation of this man, this official, Jairus of the synagogue. And it says, as Jesus went with this official from the synagogue, there was a large crowd following him. And the woman who had had a hemorrhage for 12 years knew in her mind, having heard that Jesus was in the area, that if she could just touch his cloak, that she might be healed. But in Mark, which is our most extensive part of the story, is told in more detail, we find out that she had spent all of her money and endured great pain and difficulty through treatment by many different doctors who tried to heal her, and none were able to. None helped. As a matter of fact, it says her condition worsened. And so when she touches the hem of his garment, Jesus feels power flow out of him, and he turns and he says, who touched me? And it tells us in Mark that the disciples said, well, in a crowd like this, who knows who touched you? If you look at Luke, it tells us that Peter is the one who spoke to Jesus and said, in a crowd like this, multitude like this, how would you ever know who touched you? And as he looks around the crowd, the woman, being fearful and feeling that she was found out, falls at Jesus' feet and not only confesses to her, but the multitude that are following, her motives and her belief that if Jesus could be just touched, that she would be healed. And Jesus says, daughter, your faith has made you whole. Go in peace and be healed. Well, there's a couple of things that really strike me as we look at this woman with a hemorrhage. I think the first thing, of course, is the fact that she was very, very ill and had only gotten worse. But she had great faith in spite of all of her failures that with Jesus she could overcome this problem. I think that's significant for all of us, even when we have great difficulty and no one seems to be able to help. Jesus can. And so I think that's a very significant thing. The other is the incredible faith that she had. She felt like she didn't need Jesus to lay hands on her. She didn't need Jesus to do anything special, but if she could just get to Jesus and touch his garment, that she would be healed. I think it's very interesting that Jesus discerned power going out of him. Not that he was made weaker because power went out, but he sensed that something had changed, somebody had changed. Now, we know that Jesus knows all things, and so the question was more for the disciples and for the woman than it was for his own curiosity. He knew who touched him. He knew what her problem was, and he knew that she had been healed. Nevertheless, he gave her an opportunity to give testimony, not only to Jesus, but also to the multitude that were around him. And I think Jesus does that many times. He knows all about us, but he wants us to be given an opportunity to give testimony for him on his behalf, so that others might understand who he is. And so we find this very interesting story about the woman with the issue of blood, whose issue of blood stops immediately. Now, I think one danger of this particular story is for those TV evangelists that are healers. And that is, if you have faith enough, you can be healed from anything. And they take a verse like this and put too much emphasis on the faith and then equate it to the fact that anybody can be healed of anything, anytime, anywhere, if they just have enough faith. And yet Jesus consistently taught it was not an amount of faith that people need. It's what they have faith in that is important, and believing that he can, not that he always will. And so I think it's important for us to keep that in perspective. God is a healer. He doesn't heal everyone, everywhere, every time, every way. But he does have the ability of doing that, and we have to trust his will to be done, whether it's to heal or to whether to let us to endure whatever is going on in our lives. And don't forget, as tomorrow comes around, we're going to be talking about Jairus' daughter, 12-year-old girl who is either dying or has died, with a father who is a leader in the synagogue and an official in the synagogue, and has come in faith, believing that if Jesus will just come, that she'll be healed. And we'll take that up tomorrow. So that's my thought for today. God bless you and have a great day.